right? So recording start. So we have 90 minutes from the from 8:30. So we'll stop at 10. Okay, so we have 60 minutes presentation, and the rest, the remaining of hour, we will use it for Q&A. So if you have any questions, right, you could use the chatting feature of WebEx. You can see it on top of your screen for that for those that connecting through WebEx. Okay, and then during the Q&A period, Sister Amanda hopefully, and we will ask her to try to answer your questions. And then when those, if any, questions written in the chat is finished, we'll proceed with the live Q&A. Okay, and then short biography of Sister Amanda, right? Let me just show you her. Let me just add her, share my screen, share. All right. Can you, those that connecting to WebEx, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, great. All right. So, well, you have seen it in the on the flyer as well. Okay. So, Sister Amanda, and Jazakillah for her for being with us today. She is the communication guru. Okay, so as you can see here, she's a professional in social media and communication, blogging, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Okay, and she's actually a convert, alhamdulillah and mashallah. I think since about 20 years ago, something. Certainly, Sister Amanda can share it more as she would. Again, she's based in Austin, Texas. A professional consultant, prominent speaker, trainer, community activist, interfaith activist, and she has been honored, as you can see here, with so many awards for her dedication to serve community. So shortly, she is an authority when we talk about social media and nonprofit. So without further ado, I would hand over the call to Sister Amanda. Sister Amanda, please.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Can I just want to make sure that I have my. Am I able to share my screen? Can you see my screen? No.
Oh, not yet. It's coming up. I just unchecked mine.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And my
Waalaikumsalam.
PowerPoint, can you see it?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
You need to in the on top of your screen. You have the menu share, and then you would need to choose
letting
my
me
screen.
select though. It's do I have to call in with no?
Can you highlight my screen menu
Highlight?
in the share, and then the just hover it?
I can't highlight it. It won't let me highlight it. Like Yeah, the drop down is there, but I can't actually select anything.
Hang on. Change role to presenter. You are presenter.
Okay, now I'm the presenter. There we go.
Ah, right. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
We can see your screen.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you all. I'm so pleased that I've had this opportunity to come and talk to you. This is my favorite subject. It's what I do for a living. But even if I didn't, I would still be doing it. Social media, digital media in general, is a passion of mine, and I think that the potential for what you can do with digital media is far beyond what we've been able to do before. And I've watched over the last 10 years as the technology and the techniques and practices of digital marketing have evolved. And so I'm going to share with you this evening a very broad overview of digital marketing and all of the pieces that go together so that you can do what you need to do to promote your organization online. And there are multiple things, and ideally all of these things are going to work together. As Sefo said, we are going to have Q&A at the end, but if there's something really pressing, if I'm not explaining something and it's just everyone is lost, please do interrupt me. It's Friday evening, I've worked all week, and heaven knows. So I will try to be as clear as possible, but forgive me in advance if there's anything not clear. So a little bit about myself. Thank you for reading my biography. And also, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
The volume is on? Okay. So I'm actually the director of social media at a large nonprofit association, the Texas Association of School Boards. We are about 500 employees, and I manage the social media across the organization. So we have several different large departments that operate as sort of their own business centers, and each of them has their own social media presence, and then I sit in the center in the overarching communications department and help to coordinate all of that. In addition, I'm the principal at Dark Matter Digital Media. That's my own consulting firm. And I'm also the executive board chair for a little conference called Blogathon ATX. It's a one-day annual conference for people that do content creation online. I'm the board chair right now of Circle of Health International. It's an organization that serves women and babies in crisis zones around the world, and I'm an interfaith activist. And I've been working with nonprofits and small businesses doing digital marketing for the last 10 years. So I want you to know, first and foremost, that any of the challenges that you're experiencing are probably not unique. I think most nonprofits have a similar set of challenges. And that's good news, because that means that there are lots of trails that were blazed in advance. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's lots of tools that are out there. So alhamdulillah, I had a chance to look at some of the work that you're already doing, and it looks like there's a nice foundation there. And so we're going to talk about how to maybe tighten all of that up. And I know that you're launching a new website soon. So you want to take all of your online presence to the next level. And ideally, that's what we're going to do, inshallah. So these are the elements that I have for a digital marketing strategy. And in the center is your brand identity. And this, part of the struggle that we have in the nonprofit world is that most people who are working at nonprofits are, they're either doing it as an add-on to their regular career. It's something that they do as a labor of love. It's not your full-time job. And the other thing is that people that work in nonprofits are generally very passionate about whatever the mission of the organization is, but maybe not so much about actually running a nonprofit, right? It's like when people who say they love to cook, so then they go to open a restaurant, and then they realize that running a restaurant is so much more of a pain than actually cooking, right? So then it kind of puts a damper on their enthusiasm. So when you're in a nonprofit and you have to promote yourself, you're basically you're running your nonprofit, you're doing all of the things for your community, but on top of that, you have this additional burden of being the marketing, PR, technology department, and it's that's a challenge. So all of that to say that I empathize, but there are best practices in the world of digital media, and I want to convey those to you so that you have everything that you need to do it the right way. So your brand identity is the core of your digital marketing strategy. And you have to be very, very clear about that because it's going to be infused in every single thing that you do, right? It's much, much easier to be on social media by yourself. Most people can take to social media like a duck to water, right? My mother-in-law is in her 60s. She only recently joined Facebook, and I'm amazed at how quickly she grasped it and embraced it. She's very enthusiastic about it. But the reason why that's so easy is because when you're on social media as an individual, you're representing yourself, and you know yourself better than anyone else. Whereas when you're representing an organization or a cause, you have to kind of present as this other thing, right? It becomes less human when you are representing an organization. It becomes much harder to bring the humanity across of an organization or a company. And so the brand identity is really an exercise in trying to understand who you are and how you're going to present as an organization. And through that brand identity, you'll go ahead and have these other elements that are all going to be working together in one sort of ecosystem. So you have email marketing, you have social media marketing, you have your website, web copy, and then you have visual elements. And all four of these things should be interconnected and working together around this identity. So when we're talking about your brand identity, we're talking about visual elements or branding elements like your logo, the colors that you use, and also the voice that you use when you write. So for example, the place that I work, we have a very clear brand guide that we've spent a long time developing. And it's our responsibility to make sure that every single person in the organization that's creating content on our behalf understands that guide, because we don't want multiple voices representing us online. We want to have a single cohesive brand voice that is the same across all of these platforms. And that's challenging, absolutely challenging, especially if you have a large team and multiple people are doing it. But that's why it's really important to have that laid down. And I'm going to send you this PowerPoint, and in the comments, in the speaker comments, are links to some very, very good resources that you can look at after the presentation, and that should guide you through the process of creating and setting up and implementing some of these things. So there's a link here, 20 questions to consider when you're creating your brand identity, and I hope you'll look at that. And maybe as a team, when you're doing strategic planning, go through and talk about this. Talk about the organization and how you want to present in online spaces, and go through these questions and make it an exercise. And it can be a fun exercise, actually. It's a very creative and enjoyable thing. But what you want to avoid more than anything is to have one person have their voice be the voice of your organization. Because if you do that, then God forbid something happened to that person, or they leave, and then you are you're stuck. Then you have to start from scratch again. Other things that contribute to your brand identity is your mission statement, and that's an important. And I probably don't need to tell you the value of a good mission statement. And there's lots and lots out there written about how to craft one. Also core values, and The other thing that goes into your brand identity are your goals and aspirations. What is it that you want to do and accomplish in the world with this organization, and your vision, which is a clear description of what your mission looks like in the world. And all of those things, if they're done well, if they're cohesive and tight, then your brand will be able to call to mind very clear and evocative ideas and images to anybody who's familiar with it. Some examples, and these are very common examples, are Apple, Adidas, and Mercedes-Benz. And the reason why I chose to use these logos is because they're all kind of black and white and grayscale. But each one, even though you've got these three different shapes and letters, or words here, each one, when you look at it, evokes something very specific, right? When you look at the Apple logo, you feel and you think of it calls to mind very specific things. Same thing with Adidas, same thing with Mercedes-Benz, right? And that's just the logo part. But when you think about these things, you're not just thinking about a product, and you're not just thinking about the design of the logo, but you're also thinking about certain feelings, right? You're thinking about, when you look at the Apple logo, you're thinking about the sleek design of the products. You're also thinking about, how cool it is to have these products, and all of the things that go into marketing them make you feel a certain way, right? Same thing with Adidas. When you have Adidas clothing or shoes, or when you see an Adidas commercial, you kind of get pumped up, you get excited, World Cup is coming or whatever. You have these feelings around what these are. And you want to do that with your organization and with your brand. It should make people feel a certain way. And these are just three very basic examples. And these are product examples. But you can do the same thing with almost any brand, any concept, right? You can attach feelings and concepts to them to make you it's to evoke things in your audience. And so what that does is that when you're doing work online, is it helps to it's a shortcut, right? You don't want to have to re-explain or reintroduce yourself every single time somebody encounters your brand online. You want people to get used to you and get used to seeing you and already have an attachment to you when you are putting your messaging out there. So we're going to go through and we're going to talk about each of the elements that are surrounded by or surrounding your brand identity. And these are things that you probably are already using or probably already know, but I want to explain the value of each one. And then I want to encourage you to, the next time you sit down to do your strategic plan or your marketing plan, think about how each of these elements are working together, because they should all be connected, right? They're all going to feed off one another, and they're all going to have some relationship to one another. So email is still the #1 marketing tool. And I say that as somebody who does digital marketing and as somebody who's very passionate about social media. I know that there are limitations to it. And so I think it's really important to have a solid email marketing strategy. Again, there's a link that I'm including with this presentation about email marketing. But the things that you should know, first of all, email has the widest reach of any platform. And it is technically a social platform, right? There are more than 5 billion accounts worldwide of email accounts. There's only 1 billion, around 1 billion Facebook accounts, right? So you're going to have, just by virtue of the number of accounts out there, probably a better opportunity to reach a greater number of people. The other thing about it is that you're more likely to reach your audience with email because it all gets delivered, right? Like it shows up in people's inboxes whether or not they're seeking it out. Whereas on social media, and especially because of the way that algorithms work on Facebook and now on Twitter, people may not see your posts, right? They may not necessarily run across them unless they go looking for them. Only 2% of Facebook organic posts gets viewed by your audience. But unless somebody, blocks you on email, if they've given you permission to email them, then they've said they want to hear from you, and it's going to show up there. They literally have to go and remove the email, right, to not see it anymore. And that's very different from social media. The other thing, email is a converter. It's a converter, right? 3%. There's a 3% average click-through rate on emails, which is contrasted with the 0.5% click-through rate on social media. A click-through rate, for those who don't know, is the rate at which people see a link and then click it and go to the destination that you want to send them to. So it's much more likely if you email someone a link that they're going to click on it and go there and take the action that you want them to take than if you just post on your social. The other thing is that 72% of people prefer to receive promotional material via email. So it's already, considered a more professional medium. People go to Facebook, people go to Twitter, they see, they're there for the cat videos and the, pictures of people's babies, and it may or may not always, they may or may not always want to do business there. It is very much a social environment. And so if you have business to be done, if you're doing a fundraiser, if you're trying to organize an activity, then using a professional medium like Facebook is going to, like email is going to actually work out better. And again, like I said, it doesn't have to be an exclusive thing. It shouldn't be exclusive, but you should always include email in your digital marketing plan. And then again, email is an open platform. It's not, obviously there are spam laws, but you can pretty much say and do whatever you like on email as long as the recipient wants to hear from you. Whereas on a place like Facebook or Twitter, which is privately owned, you are completely at the mercy of their terms of service and or anyone who's moderating it. And so you have more control over what you can say and do with email. Now with your web content, there are 3 really important pieces to how people engage with you on your website. And your website is, I always view it as your home base, right? Almost everything that you do online, whether it's email or social media, is done to drive people somewhere, to get them to do something. And more often than not, that is sending them to your website, right? So you may be sending people to your website to sign up for something or to make a donation or to read something and share it. Whatever it is, a lot of us, nonprofit or for-profit, are sending people to a website. And so when you do that, you want your website to be an ideal destination, right? Because what you're doing is, it's called a call to action on these other platforms, and when somebody takes that action, that means that they've given sort of like a green light. And when they arrive on your website, it needs to be set up so that they do exactly what it is that you want them to do, because it's very easy to lose people's attention on the internet. So there's a couple different things here we want to talk about. And these are terms that you may be familiar with, but if you're not, you need to be. The first is called SEO. It's search engine optimization. And search engine optimization is writing web copy for search engines, right? So a lot of times when we write for our website, we think that we're writing for people who are our audience, and we are, right? We want people to come to our website, and it has to make sense, and it has to be what they're looking for. But in addition to that, it also needs to be information that a browser, a search engine, is going to actually be able to digitally crawl, and then pull out information and serve it up to the people that are using it. So for example, Google makes its money through advertising. And the reason why people use Google why it's the most important and most valuable search engine in the world is because, and the reason why people buy ads on Google is because when people do a search on Google, or yeah, when people do a search on Google, it brings up it's very accurate in its response, right, or in its results. And so the reason why it's able to do that, why it's able to give you these accurate search results, is because it has algorithm. It has the ability to go out and crawl the entire web, and find the most relevant pieces of information. So when you're writing your web copy, you want to make it so easy for Google to come and find the perfect piece of information to serve up to whoever's searching. And so this is an art, and there is an amazing guide, the Beginner's Guide to SEO. It's an actual online book, and I'm including the link, and I would highly, highly recommend that you read through it and get to know it and get to understand how to use keywords in your web copy, and how to write for a search engine as opposed to just writing a narrative for somebody to read. The other thing is mobile responsiveness. As you probably already know, huge numbers of people are now using mobile to access websites, and especially younger audiences. And this is going to be a trend that is not going to go away. Younger and younger audiences and more increasing numbers of people are going to be trying to read your website on their phone. And if your phone isn't, or on their phone, and if your website isn't created in a way that optimizes so that they can easily see things and find things and navigate using a small device, then they're going to lose interest very quickly. So this is absolutely a best practice, and most major websites now are mobile responsive, but it's really important to test on every possible device whenever you do things to your website, make additions, make changes, go there and look for ways to make it, or look for all the different ways that it could go wrong, right? And then fix it. And then the user experience, the UX, is basically, it's a science around how people interact with your website, and that includes, how people search for things, are things where they need to be, so that people don't get frustrated easily when they come to your website. All of that exists because you can have the best social media in the world. You can drive thousands of people to your website, right? But if your website doesn't work right, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose a lot of them, right? And so that's what I mean when I say that all of these elements have to work together. They all have to work as one cohesive ecosystem, because what will happen then is you're going to have people that are very, very frustrated in your organization because one group is doing a great job driving traffic, and then it's getting lost, and then then what can you do? It's then you're not actually reaching your goal. So
Amanda, can I ask questions?
yeah.
Yeah, I know that I have already said earlier, to park questions, but I think it's important, especially as we are planning to launch our new website very soon. So when you say writing for search engine, are you saying that to write, I mean, you need to make sure that the content that you write in in your website, in each page, should be something which is Google friendly, or can you elaborate
Yes.
on that?
Yes. So the way that Google indexes websites is it sends out these things, they call them spiders. They crawl the web, and they look for keywords, they look for tags, they look for web page structures, and they look for fresh content, right? So if you have a website, this may be a little technical, but when you have the actual code on the page, the way that the site is structured, and the tags and the headings and all of those things are going to capture the interest of those spiders, and they will be more likely to serve your page up if they think that it has relevant, fresh information. I mean, like I said, this is an art. It's something that there are some specific rules to doing. Your website is never going to be a set it and forget it type thing. It has to be something that is regularly updated and checked and scanned for the appropriate elements. Um, Writing like actual copy, you want to use specific keywords. There's a whole thing on this guide that I'm sending you about keyword research, and I think it's really important to remember like the way that people think about things and the way that search engines think about things are two very different things. So what you may use as a keyword intuitively yourself may not be what a search engine is looking for. And so understanding what those rules are is really important in actually structuring the content on your website.
Thank you. Thank you, Jazakillah khair.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
and I think also remembering that updating updating your website is really important, because when Google goes to re-index all the pages on the website, it's going to give preference to sites that are updating and giving fresh and relevant new content. That doesn't mean that you have to do it all the time, but it should be on a regular basis. That's one reason why, and probably the main reason why, a lot of organizations have blogs. It's not necessarily just to tell people about stuff, it's because they want to keep the content on their website fresh and relevant.
All right, thank you, Jazakillah khair. I just want to say that it is a challenge. It's a very valid challenge at this stage for us, because what happened is that we have the old site, and it has been there like ages, and we had never actually modified it, and now we are planning to do launch a new one, but we still we well, knowing this, I mean, we still need to craft our strategy so that we have someone who can keep creating blog and whatnot. So thank you so much. I think it's very.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. And I just want to offer this. I would ask that you not get overwhelmed, because there's a lot here, and it is overwhelming if you try to do everything at once. And I don't think that you have to do that. I think you pick some things, you get into a groove with it, and then you start evolving your system. It doesn't have to be. It will never be a finished product. Your website is never going to be a finished product, and that's a good thing. It is a work in progress all the time. Okay, so visual elements. I think this is the one thing that a lot of people just still don't get about the web, and that is that it is a digital, or it is a visual platform. So it is essential that you use visual content and use it liberally across all of your platforms, right? We all know that people don't like to read anymore, unfortunately. um, you have very little time to grab somebody's interest and to really make an impact and to draw them in. And so because of that, you have to be able to use graphic design, photography, video, and these are things that can be done well, or they can be done very, very poorly. And people will judge you on the quality of your work or your organization if it doesn't look like you know what you're doing in this regard. A couple of really interesting statistics. Tweets that have images with them average 150% more retweets than those without. And if you're on Twitter and you go and you just kind of scan through your feed, you'll notice that there are tweets that catch your eye, and usually those have some kind of graphic element to them. By the end of 2019, video content will represent 80% of all web traffic, and articles with a photo every 75 to 100 words receive double the social media shares than those without. This is especially true because, Twitter and Facebook, when you post the links on them to your web content, will pull in photos, right, for you. and so you have to have something there for them to pull in. But I guess the main thing about this that I think is really important to convey is a lot of people undervalue visual content, and because of that, they think that anyone can do it, and then they produce very bad visual content. And I would say focus on quality over quantity, and make sure you have either somebody who is trained to do it, or some kind of budget item so that you can get it done well. Because if you don't, it will look very bad. It will reflect badly on you, right? And that's just the nature. That's just the nature of marketing in general. It is a little superficial, but that's how people operate. And I think the worst possible content or culprit of this is video. I think because video is so easy to produce now, everybody's doing it, and my goodness, I have seen so much bad web video, right? And the thing is that people don't want to watch 20 minutes of one person talking. I don't know how you people are still with me after after 40 minutes. but it's really very, very difficult to get people to sit through a video that's longer than a couple minutes, and even then it needs to be really well produced, right? It's just so easy to do it badly. So yeah, it's better to, in my opinion, better to not do video than to do it badly, because that's just it's just a waste of your time. And tying back into the brand identity, everything that you do visually should reflect your brand identity, and that's really hard for some people to get comfortable with, because I think speaking from personal experience, managing a team of very diverse personalities, you'll find that some people really have a personal aesthetic that they want to bring in, and that's, you have to be very firm and gentle and say, no, that doesn't go with our brand identity. Even though it's nice, it's not us. Everything that you produce visually is going to have to be part of your overall look and feel and tone online. Okay, so now we're going to talk about social media, which is my favorite part. And you're wondering why there's a telephone here, and an old phone too, not even a smartphone. So I like to tell people, I get questions all the time about social media, and people say, how do you do this, or what's the secret, or what platform is best, or blah 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 blah. And I always tell them, look, social media is very much like a telephone, in that you can use a phone to order a pizza, or you could use that same phone to close a multi-million-dollar deal. Or you could use that same phone to call somebody and propose marriage. Or you could use that phone to call and threaten somebody's life, right? It's not the phone, right? It's not social media. Social media is a agnostic tool, and the real value of it is how you are using it, and who you are connecting with, and what you're saying, and how you're communicating with it. So I don't spend a lot of time training people on the tools of social media, because they are just tools. And frankly, social media companies change their platforms all the time. I mean, they're constantly evolving their platforms and how they do things, and their algorithms, and their UX. So, and most social media, all social media is designed for very quick learning curve, right? Like my mother-in-law, like I said, she's in her 60s. She quickly got the hang of Facebook. It's designed for people to use. My kids, I have children, and they use social media. They use Snapchat and Instagram. They have no problems picking it up and using it. These are not technically difficult tools. The real challenge is how do you use it in the best way for you? And that's what we want to talk about. So there's a few things, there's a few best practices to know when you're using social media. First is you want to go where your audience is, right? I think all of us have seen websites where you go and there's like 8 social media icons on top, and you're like, wow, they must really be good at it. But a lot of those are actually repetitive, and they're not that interesting, and they're not updated frequently, and they're just there because people think that they should be there, right? In reality, the only value that social media has and the only platforms you need to be on are the ones where your audience is. So if you're, if you're a skateboard company and you are selling, skateboards, you may probably not necessarily need to be on Facebook because the demographic for Facebook is much, much older, right? Teenagers who buy skateboards or young adults generally are not using Facebook that much. But if you're a skateboard company and you want to sell to teenagers and young adults, you may want to be on Snapchat, right? Or you may want to be on Instagram, which is, they have much, much higher percentage of that age demographic. So knowing who your audience is, and there's a couple ways to do that. I think surveys are always good. If you have an email list, if you have people that you already are serving who are members of your organization, find out where they are, and don't commit to being on platforms unless you know that you have an audience there. The other thing about social media is consistency. Social media is a tool for building relationships. They are not broadcasting tools, right? I think we often get in this, and this is old mindset. This is old marketing mindset where we're buying ads or we're, broadcasting on television. That's not how it works on social media. People want to be able to have two-way communication on social media, and so because of that, you have to have consistency, because that's how you build relationships, right? Is the familiarity and the ability to be top of mind in front of people and become part of their lifestyle and part of the way that they operate online. So consistency and the two-way communication, very, very important. And I would say, I use an 80-20 rule, and people think that's crazy, but it's actually very effective. The 20% of your time online is spent promoting your things. The other 80% is actually engaging back and forth or talking to other people about what they're doing. And this is not rocket science, right? This is how relationships in the real world work. You don't just go anywhere and start talking to about yourself and expect people to like you or want to be around you. You show interest in others, and you give others attention, and you are generous with your own tool, platform, and invite people to share things on your platform as well, so that you can promote them. And I think that concept is lost on so many who want to just, again, set it and forget it. They want to just put their stuff out there and go back to doing what they really care about, right? If you don't love, like if you're not doing social media because you love it, which I admit I do, but I know a lot of people that don't love it. They really hate social media, and so because of that, they don't want to use it as a communications tool. And so my advice to you is find somebody in your organization that loves doing it, that is passionate about it, that is willing to spend time on it, that is willing to that you trust to carry your voice in these spaces and have conversations with people on your behalf, and let them go for it. Let them have fun and be creative with it. And you're never going to be able to, that you can't buy that, right? That's a quality that isn't just a job description item. That's really a quality of somebody that loves the medium, likes people, and likes the interaction. Okay, and so now we're going to deconstruct just a couple of these.
Sister Amanda,
Yes,
can I interrupt you for a second? Yeah, you mentioned about the two-way communication, right? Can you elaborate on that and how we can make it work for IMSA and other nonprofit?
sure.
Yeah.
So when you, for example, if you have a Facebook page, you have to be willing to dedicate a certain amount of time on a regular basis, and by regular I mean daily, to the interaction. If somebody posts a comment on your Facebook page, if you share an article or a video or something, and somebody posts a comment, and it just sits there for 24 or 48 hours and nobody responds to it, they're not going to be inspired to keep coming back and engaging on your page, right? And engagement is what you want. So and what that means, what that translates to, is you actually have to have somebody whose job it is, or whose responsibility, maybe not even their job, to actually monitor that and be the one who responds. And that can be very tricky also if you have a team, because you have to designate people at certain times. Otherwise, nobody's going to do it, right? And then it will just get lost in the shuffle. And so that's what I mean. I mean, there has to be a conscious effort to be there, to engage, and to make sure that somebody is covering that, because there's no substitute for human interaction online.
Right. For practicality, right? So say that we have 20. Well, we have now 28 who have joined us. No, 26. So, mashallah. Jazakumullah khair for those that have just joined us recently. Now, say that we have 26, right? Can we say to make it work, because we know every one of us, as any other nonprofit organization, they have their own main priority, right? Be it work, be it something else, right? And can we say that out of 26, say that one person need to actually to make sure that he or she, you know, um, uh, comment back, reply the comment and whatnot for a Facebook, for example. And then the next day would be another person, and throughout this 26 days, consecutively, and then another. After that, the first person would do this. I mean, would be assigned to do it again. Is it? Is
Yeah.
it? Would it work? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on your organization. So, for example, I'm on an advisory committee for a national organization of women, and we're all over the country, and we have a system set up to where different people will kind of take it as their responsibility to monitor. And it doesn't always have to be daily. It can be my week or my weekend. Generally, how it goes is the founder of the organization is always monitoring it, but she will tell us. And she's Jewish, right? So if it's Shabbat and she's not online, she'll say, I need somebody to keep an eye on this, or she's going on vacation, I need somebody to do this. But it's a matter of communicating and just making sure that it's known who is going to do it, and that person agrees and takes responsibility for it. And so whatever works for your organization, make a calendar, whatever, and be willing to kind of change that around if it's not working out the way you like.
Jazakallah khair, Claire.
Sure. Okay, so a couple of things I just want to, these are words that we hear, and I just want to make sure that they're very clear. Trolls. So these are people who go around and start trouble, right, on the internet. Um, Anyone who's been online long enough knows that there are people who don't have the best of intentions. And I'm sorry to say that if you are a Muslim or a Muslim organization, you are even more likely to meet these people. If you have any public outward-facing social media, you're probably going to have at some point somebody saying or doing something really horrible toward your organization. And so knowing how to handle them is really important. And a troll isn't necessarily just somebody that disagrees. I think that's a really important thing to recognize. You know, your community, your online community, or your Facebook page, or your Twitter account, it's okay if people don't like something. And I think if you try to quash anything like that, that usually comes back to get you. Because people want to be free to, air their opinions and blah, 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 and that's fine. The more you overreact, I think, or react, the more of a bad position you're going to be in when somebody has a legitimate thing that they want to express. But what we're talking about here is not that. We're talking about people that are actually trying to just, they're either being abusive or they're saying things that are cruel or defamatory. Um, these are people that you need to be able to deal with. And if you have multiple people managing your social accounts, everybody needs to be on the same page about how to handle that. When do you block somebody? How do you, where's the line? Are there certain words that you don't use? Are there certain positions that you're not going to entertain? Certain things like racism, sexism, anything that is, defamatory toward Islam or our prophet, like, are those things that you're going to, that's it. There's no wiggle room there. That is just a matter of, developing a policy for the way that you want to run your social media. And, unfortunately, these different platforms are very, they don't particularly care about what people are doing. They're not going to monitor it for you. They're not going to moderate it for you. So you and your team have to be really clear about what you want to allow and what you don't. And communicate that to the community. Communicate that. You can write that in the description on your Facebook page and say, these are things that we're not going to accept, or blah, 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 so that it's fair warning, right? If somebody comes along and they post something that is very clearly not allowed, then don't feel one bit sorry about getting rid of them. The other word, viral. So I get asked all the time. This is like the number one question I get from people is, how do we make this go viral? And the thing about it is, you can't really make something go viral. That's why it's viral, right? It's sort of out of your control. It's out of everyone's control. And I think a lot of people try to make content that they think is going to go viral, and it's really, it's not a good way to spend your resources. I think you do consistent, good quality content on your platforms, and if you're lucky, and if something goes viral, hooray. But if not, the real value is the long-term content that you put out there anyway, right? And I mean, we've seen, like, the internet is very fickle. Something very exciting and popular one day, in 2 weeks, no one will even remember it. So what you really want to do when you're building a brand or sharing your content is make sure you have this consistent sharing. Don't worry about making it go viral. And then call to action is another important concept that I just want to make sure everyone's clear about, because when you put something on the internet, when you put something on either your website or social media or your email, the call to action means that you're doing it in a purposeful way. You don't just put something out for no reason or because it's nice or pretty or interesting to you. You put it out there because you're trying to get somebody to do something, right? And that could be a lot of things. It could be you want somebody, at the very minimum, you want somebody to share it, right? That's a call to action. That's saying, this is interesting enough that we want this person to share it with their 200 other friends or whatever. It could be as a sign up for our newsletter. It could be buy tickets to our fundraiser. It could be whatever it is. But there's a reason. And every single thing that you make for the internet should have a reason that you can articulate very clearly. And when you create it, the call to action should somehow be there. It should be embedded. It should be very clear to the person who's who's looking at it what you want them to do. So that's why, it says on those little buttons, click now. Well, obviously, if there's a button, you're supposed to click it, but you want it to be abundantly clear, as if the person had come from another planet and knows nothing about anything. Make it that simple so that the call to action is, with no question. Okay, so then there's a cycle, and I think this is really key. Uh, all of these things that you're doing, all of the content creation and each of the elements of your digital strategy are going to run on this cycle, right? You're going to actually set some goals, right? Your goals are going to be tied to your mission and your overall organization's mission, and the content goals are going to be, directly related to that. And you're going to create your content based on those goals. And then you're going to figure out the best way to share that content. And that can be, figuring out best times to share it, best platforms, how you want to do that. Then you're going to engage around that content, not just throw it out there, but as soon as somebody says something, you want to have an engagement around it. And as that's happening, you're measuring that all the time with analytics. You're watching what content provokes what kinds of responses and what stuff is popular and who likes what. And then once you have a substantial amount of data that you've measured, you're going to go back and you're going to revise your content goals. And then you're going to start over creating content. And this is never ending, right? And I run my content cycle on a quarterly basis with my team at work. We sit down, we come up with our schedule, we write out our plan, and then we go. Because there's a lot of variables online, so you don't just want to keep tweaking your ideas and tweaking your plans every week or whatever. Let it go for a few months, and then sit down and look at everything again. Look at the hard data, look at the qualitative feedback that you have, and then make revisions to your plan. This is not this is not magic how this happens. It's very deliberate and it's very process oriented, and it really is letting other people tell you what they want to hear, letting other people tell you what they need from you to interact online, paying attention, listening, watching, seeing what's good, and doing it all the time, doing it consistently on an ongoing basis. That's all there is to it. It's really not a complicated thing. The thing is that it's not exciting. It's not super fun or interesting. Some of it is very tedious. And so that's why it's important to make yourself do it and to actually have a process in place and to have people designated to it. Because if you don't, it's just going to be ad hoc, right? It's just going to be, my God, and I've seen this a million times and I've done it a million times. That thing that we did last year, that was really good. We should do that again. And there's no real data there. It's just your feeling. It was good. We should do that again, right? That's not a good thing to base a strategy on, is your feelings and what you think you remember happened before, right? You really want to have something there, something that you're measuring and looking at substantially as a foundation going forward in your plan. I don't know if you use Google Analytics as well, but I think they are the best. Like, I don't know why you would do any kind of business on the internet if you were not using Google Analytics. It's like being in a dark room. Like, you have no idea until you look at people's behavior and the way that traffic flows through your website and what people are clicking on, what you need to do. There's no way to know. It's essential. And so if you haven't, go, and I'm including this link, and do that. There's a Google Analytics Academy. It's free online training, very, very simple. Google is their masters at making things easy to digest and easy to do. And so, go take these little courses, learn how to read the analytics, learn what they can do, and they can do a lot. and get comfy with it, because that's how you're going to figure out whether or not you're being successful on the internet, right? It's not about whether or not somebody likes, what you said or tells you they saw your ad or whatever. It's really it's about hard data. And then finally, these are my, final rules for success, and just sort of a wrap up of what we talked about. Um, be sure to know, use, and love your keywords. Everything on the internet that's text-based is running off of keywords and tags. And so understand what people are looking for, how to figure out what people are looking for, and how to work those keywords into whatever content you're creating. Use a branding guide, create and use a branding guide that is across your organization, especially because you're so decentralized. Everyone needs to be on the same page about your digital presence online. Make a budget for some advertising. And, advertising is kind of scary online. I know that it's kind of a weird and complicated, convoluted process. But I'm talking about simple things like boosting your Facebook post for $25. Put that in there, because if you're doing a fundraiser, or if you're doing a conference or something, you're going to be generating revenues from sales anyway. It's an investment in what you're doing, and it does make a huge difference. I mean, the Facebook model is based on, advertising model is based on it. You're not going to get nearly the amount of eyeballs on what you're doing unless you're willing to pony up a little bit of cash. And you can do it for very little amount of money. It doesn't have to be, hundreds of dollars a month. It can be, 50, $100 a month at the most. Focus on quality over quantity. You do want to make sure your content stays fresh, but also make sure that it's good, because there's just so much junk on the internet, and people have found ways to tune it out, right? People have found ways to sort of avoid all of the noise, and so make sure that stuff that you put out there is undeniably good. Meet people where they are, and that means physically, like, find where people are online, but also meet them where they are with your messaging. Find out how people need to hear your message. Your job is to make sure people are hearing you. And if you don't understand the way they think or the way they feel about certain things, then you're not going to make anything compelling for them. Use a content calendar. This is important because content often gets backburnered, right? People don't always want to be like consistent in creating stuff, and also we're busy, right? So have a calendar and like really use it and regularly, and have it tied to events and holidays and things throughout the year, and know ahead of time what you need to produce, so that when you have downtime in your other activities, you can be producing that content, and then you're not stuck and you're not, sitting there with nothing to post for a long time. And then empower your people to be responsive. Understand that it's important to have to be monitoring and making changes and engaging online. I think one of the things about social media is people get so worried about it. They tie everybody's hands, and then everyone has to like move together very, very slowly. And the fact is, social media, digital marketing, these are malleable, they're fast moving, they are very forgiving mediums. You don't have to do everything perfect. It's better to let your people make a couple mistakes than to have nothing out there and then have everybody be frustrated because you're getting no response. So be a little loose is all I'm saying. Is let people do their jobs, let people work, and maybe that's more for me than anyone else. That's good advice for me also. Okay, Bas, let's do a Q&A.
Well, Jazakillah khair, Sister Amanda. Every single thing, every single tip every single technique that you mentioned, it was, very well spot on. because that's those things we have not. Well, how could I say? We could that everything's our area for improvement for us. So to put it that way. Okay, let me unmute everyone. Um. Oh wow, we have now a lot of the background voices. So anyway, what I actually please we have 28, I believe, so far the number of participants. So you guys please go ahead, shoot questions, okay? And then the I will just mute by one those that have background noises. Please.
Can I ask first?
Please.
I raise my hand. Assalamualaikum, Sister Amanda. This is Safrin. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us again. It's really wonderful. So, a quick question. IMSA as a non-profit, do you think is it important for us, to set up a good baseline that all communication tools such as our website done by the professionals at least at initial steps rather than us. We are busy, we have full-time job, but we all volunteers here. How do you think about getting it right at the first steps? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question because I mean, if there's one thing that every single nonprofit has in common, it's that they have limited resources, right? So, I think there are certain things that you don't want to skimp on, but none of the stuff that we went over tonight, I think, is mm, requires an extraordinary amount of skill. I think that there I think I think some of it is just going to depend on on your bandwidth, on whether or not there are people who can do certain things or not. Um, but I mean, if you have a budget, then definitely get somebody, and go through the process of getting bids and interviewing different people. You can often find, college age students or young people who are studying marketing who will help you at a very, reasonable rate if you can't afford a large, firm or anything like that. Um, and then prioritize and figure out what's the most important thing that you need help with and put your resources there. But there's a lot of things that you can do. There's a lot of tools online that are free and that are set up for you to do things yourself. So and I don't want you to feel like you shouldn't do something just because you can't do it exactly the way you want to, right? I worked at a nonprofit a few years ago, and we redid the website twice in 3 years. Um, we did it the first time because we had to get off an old platform. It was costing too much. And then we actually found a design firm that was willing to do it pro bono as sort of a volunteer project. So, and then they did a beautiful job with it. So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, you know better than anyone else what your position is, as far as, what you are able to invest in these different pieces. And you also know who has what skill set, and then so it's really kind of up to you. But I would say if you can, it's always easier to have somebody do it, somebody professional do it. I mean, Lord knows it would be, I think it's always a good idea if you can afford it, just because if it's not your full-time job, you could probably be doing other better things with your time.
Any other questions? We have 10 minutes left, to respect everyone's time. We'll actually hard stop. We will make hard stop in 10 minutes time. In the meantime, I see that we have one question from a sister, one of the sisters. What minimum social media platform for non-profit organizations to have?
Okay, so I think that you should find out um, the people that you're trying to reach. I'm sure there's obviously going to be a certain demographic of people. Um, Probably, if I were just going to guess, I would say you definitely want to be on Facebook, right? Just because I'm assuming that most of the people that you're reaching are maybe maybe 29 to 40 years old, family people, uh, I these are people that are on there, so you might as well be on there. But and I mentioned this before, I would definitely consider, if you have an email list, sending a survey to the people that you already have as members and find out where most people are. It might surprise you. And if you have a huge number of people on Instagram, then by George, go on Instagram. If you have a lot of people who are on Twitter, then go on Twitter. But don't waste your time by having accounts in places that your audience isn't going to be, because that'll just take up valuable time you could be using somewhere else.
Thank you so much. I think I just realized I'm too old because I never actually touch the Snapchat. So, any other questions? We have 8 minutes left. Please, let's take advantage of Sister Amanda's presence here.
I want to ask a question to Sister Amanda, disciple.
Please, Mbak Vivi.
Yeah. So IMSA sister is a separate, like sister wings of IMSA, and we have a Facebook account for sister only. Sometimes when our sister posts an article on the Facebook, I feel it could be a marketing tool for IMSA or IMSA sisters, so we can reach more people to get to know IMSA. But then the setting of our Facebook is closed audience. So I was wondering how to balance the privacy of our sister, because the reason we make it like a closed audience is to protect our sister's privacy. But I just wondering how to balance the privacy and the potential that we can reach if we open the Facebook to more audience.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mentioned that I'm part of this organization. It's a women's organization for Jewish and Muslim women, interfaith organization, and we've had the same conversation because we have a closed group, and we want to maintain kind of the sanctity of that group. It's sort of it's not completely private, but it's a closed group because we talk about very important things, and there's a lot of people that don't necessarily like the idea of us having this having interfaith work, and so we want to keep those people out. So here's what we came up with. We have a group, and that group is a community, and we use it as a community to have conversations around all kinds of personal or news related things. But then we also have like a Facebook page that just represents the organization, right? And that's a public page, and nobody gets to post on that page except our organization, right? We don't let just anyone post on that page. In the group, anyone can post and share their thoughts and their feelings and blah, blah, blah. But the actual Facebook page, which anyone in the world could see, is ours, and we put our stuff out there. People can respond to it, but we post our own stuff. And we're much more aggressive about removing any comments that are not, good. We have a much tighter hold on that one. So I think it doesn't hurt to have two different ones. And just asking people in the group, when you post something, say, if you're so inclined, please share this on your personal wall because we would love to be able to get more public support for this. I think that actually doesn't hurt at all. I mean, that to me is the old-fashioned way of getting it out there, and most people are pretty happy to do that kind of thing if they enjoy the group and they find it of value. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if you have like the public page, the public Facebook page, you can also, you know, put a widget on your website so that people know about it, and you know, it doesn't have to be just limited to a certain group of people. And it's really sort of the Facebook page is really just sort of like the public face of your group or your organization, and then the private groups or the closed groups are much more protected and better for that kind of personal engagement because they're safer, and I totally get that.
Okay, I see. Thank you so much. It's very good information, Sister Amanda.
Jazakillah khair, Sister Fifi and Amanda, for that. We have another question from one of the brothers. So what happened is that, you know, Sister Amanda, we have several Facebook pages, okay, different Facebook pages. We have one main page for IMSA. We have one for youth. We have one for radio. We have one for student. We have one for other thing. So question to you, is it what's the best way? Is it to keep different pages or make it only, you know, minimize it to make sure that, you know, that everyone is actually focusing on one page only?
I mean, how, like, are all of the pages active?
No, that's the problem. Not much. Yeah, some are active, some others not.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of making multiple pages unless it's that scenario I was talking about where you actually have a group and you need to actually have a public face to it. But I would consolidate them as one and then make groups for these other, you know, as many groups as you want, but keep them closed, and then people can just go in there and have their own stuff. But as an organization, as a brand, I would have one main page, and that would be the official page. And then, you know, and then you can do whatever else you want to do. And just for the sake of brand consistency and simplifying it and making it easier to manage. Once you know, it's very easy to get out of control with these things, and then before you know it, you have either too many things to do or half of the stuff isn't even getting used, and then it just sits there and it makes you look negligent.
All right, Jazakillah khair. Okay, we are 1 minute to the hour, so I think let's conclude here. You know, to respect everyone's time, especially we are weekend already, right? So everyone need to be with their family. So again, thank you very much, and Jazakillah khair, Sister Amanda. I think, you know, we know